Right. So this one's interesting, and I didn't think much of it. Seems like just a funny, well, interesting article. But then I got to thinking, and I'm going to read the article first. It's not too long, and then I'm going to get into my thoughts on the whole thing, especially considering what you hear from both the left and the right camps. So then, and you see the title, same thing. Cyclist lost her job after raising middle finger at Trump's motorcade. Okay. This is by Christine Hauser. November 6, 2017. Okay, so November 8th. Right. A Virginia cyclist who was photographed extending her middle finger at President Trump's motorcade as it drove past her last month. Oh, this was last month? Jesus. And this story is just coming out, what, 2 days ago? Last month, okay. Last month has lost her job because of the gesture, she said on Monday. And that right there should tell you what I'm going to get into, but if not, well, just keep listening. Julie Briskman, 50. She doesn't look 50 in that photo, but then again, it's a back shot. Julie Briskman, 50, was riding her bicycle on Lowe's Island Boulevard after 3 p.m. on October 28th, when she found herself sharing a lane with President Trump's motorcade, which was leaving the Trump National Golf Course in Sterling, Virginia. Didn't know they had one down there. As the fleet of about half a dozen vehicles started to roll slowly, I don't have my contacts on, so that's why it seems like I'm a little bit struggling to read this. Everything is just slightly blurry. As the fleet of about half a dozen vehicles started to roll slowly past her, she thought briefly of cutting between the cars and riding away. That wouldn't have been good. Instead, Miss Briskman made the spontaneous gesture. It was captured by news cameras and soon became a moment shared across social media. I did not know about it until now. I'm seeing this as a side link on LinkedIn. Okay, should tell you how disconnected I am from trying to keep up with all the bullshit of the world today. Quote, honestly, my blood started boiling at that point, unquote, she said in an interview on Monday, describing when the motorcade overtook her. I saw somebody holding a newspaper. I assumed he was in there. It's real easy to tell. Find the one that was made by the car. I think it's called the Beast or something like that, or whatever the hell it's called. He's in the belly of the beast. If I remember that documentary correctly on the president's motorcade, it's somewhere here on YouTube. He's in that one. He's not in the SUVs unless they change it up. But whatever. Let's keep going. And I believe the windows are blacked out. So if you're seeing somebody, that's probably definitely not him, because that whole beast motorcade, not motorcade. That what the hell is that thing called? One moment. Presidential state car, president's limo. Yes, it looks like it is made by Cadillac. Sorry to interject like this, but 1 second. But yeah, it looks like a freaking limo. It's not an SUV, so that's an easy way to have known. Plus, again, the windows are completely blacked out, so you probably wouldn't have been able to see them. Anyway, let's get back to it. Miss Briskman explained that she was angry about steps taken by the Trump administration, including on health insurance and deportations. Earlier in the day, she had learned from news reports at the nail salon that Mr. Trump was playing golf in the area. Quote, I just got angry, said Miss Briskman. I lifted my arm and started flipping him off. I started thinking, you're golfing again when there's so much going on right now. She kept her arm up until the rest of the fleet passed and then repeated the gesture a second time when the cars came to a stop and she caught up. She said she locked eyes with a man inside who she thought was a Secret Service agent and then held the gaze of another man. But then the cars moved past her and drove away. Quote, I did not see him, but he was the target, she said, unquote. She said of Mr. Trump. The moment might have faded into obscurity, but riding along with the president's motorcade was a gaggle of, and I always hated that word, a gaggle of journalists and photographers who captured the gesture in images that were distributed far and wide, spreading online. Steve Herman, the White House Bureau Chief of Voice, what the fuck? Steve Herman, the White House Bureau Chief for Voice of America. That sounds like some made up shit. Like they just needed to give you a job, but they didn't have anything else. Posted an image captured by an agent's France-Presse. Agents France-Presse. Presse. Press. Photographer on his Twitter timeline. And of course, you can go look it up. It was soon embraced by Trump critics. Ms. Brisman said she became aware of the photograph the next day when an indivisible loud in action in all caps, an anti-Trump Facebook group posted Mr. Herman's tweets and asked who this is. Who is this? Oh, Jesus Christ. Asked who this is. Ms. Brisman replied in the comments section that she was the cyclist. Then the ball started rolling, she said, and it started getting a lot of traction. She said she kept track of the tens of thousands of times that the photograph was shared from Mr. Herman's timeline. Jimmy Fallon featured a segment showing the image, she said, and Ms. Brisman was referred to as a shiro. Okay. By Monday morning, October 30th, Ms. Brisman had affixed the image of her Facebook, and Twitter accounts. Neither account identified her as an employee of Acima LLC with overseas government contract. Here's where we're getting into it. Which oversees government contractors and where she had been employed as a marketing analyst for a little more than 6 months. She decided it would be a good idea to mention it to a human resource official at her employer. I went in and I said, have you heard about the bike woman? Ms. Brisman said. The human resource official said, no, you're going to have to look it up. You're going to have to look that up, Ms. Brisman told her. It's me. On October 31st, she was called into a meeting with the official and 2 other company executives. Quote, we have chosen to separate from you, unquote. She quoted one of them as saying to her, citing the company's social media policy ban on obscene content. Hold on 1 second. Keep up with it. We have chosen to... she said she was told that she was not meeting the company's code of conduct and that the officials feared, quote, it could hurt business because of their work related to government contracts. A company representative of Acima in Herndon, Virginia, did not return multiple telephone calls seeking comment on Monday. The company says on its website that Acima conducts business in accordance with the highest ethical standards, quote unquote. According to that statement, and quoting them, Acima expects that a high level of ethical standards and personal integrity will be reflected in all of its business dealings. I'm willing to bet if somebody went through their shit with an atom-sized comb, they're going to find some less than righteous things going on, but that's just me. Similarly, Akima, never heard of them, expects its employees, officers, and directors to exercise good judgment and maintain high ethical standards in all activities which affect Akima. Every Akima employee is held to these standards. Ms. Briskman said she was later encouraged by the human resource official to submit a resignation because it would be easier for her, to get future work. She did, calling it a quote-unquote forced resignation. She was escorted from the building. Quote, I was surprised, she said, because I don't view that as obscene as any other content that you see out there. And that's the end of the article. So, hell, I'm happy she did it. But my thoughts is not so much on this, right? Not so much on this, but on a wider thing, and that is, of course, yeah, okay, you can sit here and say whatever you want to say about, oh my God, it might hurt us, it might blah, 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 okay. But two things. One, there's so many people on the right saying that company workplaces are becoming such leftist liberal shitholes, and that is true. That is true, right? That is very true. In that they want to sit here and control this and that and this and that. But then you see stuff like this. Now, I'm willing to bet, and I don't know this for sure, but had it been Obama's motorcade or Hillary's motorcade and she flicked them off, and this woman had flicked her off, would the same reaction from the company happen? It very well might, because government is government. It's not even about that. But, it's just always a thought you have. But the most important thing of this, and this is the reason why, for all my gripes with Uber, in fact, my very last video was a gripe with Uber. One thing that I do see with Uber that I'm very happy about, and that obviously, since I don't want to stay with Uber for the rest of my life, I want to find in somewhere else, is not having to put up with this shit. This lady was not getting paid by her employer when this happened, yet for some odd reason, this employer still gets to control her fucking life. We want you. She could have been on vacation. She could have made a sex tape that leaked. She could have, I don't know, got drunk on her vacation and rode like a mechanical bull or something. Whatever the hell she wants to do with her own personal time, right? And yet her employer is going to sit here and try to police her personal time and basically say, hey, we're going to cut off employment and therefore your source of money because you went and did this thing off company time, off company grounds, in your own life that we don't like. Now, of course, you can sit here and say all what you want about, oh, well, that's why you work for yourself and you have your own business. Well, you know what? If everyone, not trying to go the if everyone route, but it is legitimate. If everyone had their own business and everybody was too busy being their own boss, where are the workers? Like, who's working? Who's doing? We haven't had machines take over everything just quite yet. It's coming, but not just quite yet. But everybody's out there being their own boss and doing their own business and all that shit. Who's going to be the worker? It's a classic according to me, even though I don't really hear too many people asking it. It's like, if everybody's the king, who's the fucking pawn? All right? Everybody's an authority in their own right, to quote Robert Greene, Don Lessing via Robert Greene. Generals, not foot soldiers. So. But then you have stuff like this where, and people might sit here and get on her ass. Whoops. People might sit here and get on her ass. Nope. People might sit there and get on her ass about, oh my god, why the hell did you go and tell your HR about it? Well, they were going to find out anyway. They would have found out anyway. Okay, sooner or later they would have found out. But, oh, for fuck's sake. But that is the main point of this video is, at what point is a line drawn between your personal life and your work life, you know? You're not supposed to let your personal business get in the way of work. Well, you know, I like to think that that exact same thing works in reverse. Like, yo, I am off work. I am not getting paid. I'm on my own time, off company grounds. You don't tell me what the fuck to do. Like, I do what I want to do. Right? You know? But anyway, so that is my thoughts on this, and I would very much like to hear the thoughts of any passerby to this channel. Whether you think what they did is right or not, whether you think what she did is right or not, my main thing is just, at what point does your employer no longer have control over your life, especially when they're not paying you, especially if you're not on the clock, you're not on their grounds, you know. At what point does work stop and your own personal life start, versus when you have to leave whatever problems you have at the door when you're coming into work and come in here, be a cog in the fucking wheel, take your money and go home. You know, if I was her, I mean, I'm not the biggest Sue happy person, but quite honestly, I'm like, okay, well, since you're going to sit here and control my supposed personal time, my own personal life, time outside the work, you're going to need to pay me, and pay me for all, like, you're pretty much going to need to pay me 24/7. 24/7 while I'm eating, sleeping, whatever, since apparently I can't do anything that you don't approve of, or you'll cut me off. Okay, then you need to pay me for my entire 24/7 while I'm taking a shit, taking a piss, whatever. If not, then you need to fuck off. You can sit here and tell me what the fuck to do while I'm here on company grounds and or on company time, but while neither one of those two things, while both of those two things are not true, you need to fuck off. And that would have been my thing, and I'd have looked to sue these people. But then again, most if not all people sign something in that long list of shit that you sign when you start working, that this is an at-will employment and can be terminated at any time by any party, you, the employee, or the employer, for any reason, if they have a reason at all. So I guess maybe she can't sue, but it's just, maybe she can sue for back money, because, again, they're essentially trying to monopolize her entire life. She can't do anything anywhere in existence that might, in some form or fashion, spin around twice and say Beetlejuice 3 times, negatively affect the company. You want to control my life like that? You need to fucking you need to fucking pay me for as long as you want to control my life. And since that appears to be 24 hours, you're gonna need to pay me round the fucking clock, with the overtime and all that. Anyway, that's it. Your thoughts below. Later.